January 27th marks the 60th anniversary of China-France diplomatic ties, and we're honored to welcome Alexis Lavis from France, an associate professor of the School of Philosophy at Renmin University of China. Good to have you with us today, Professor. Well, let's first talk about your academic journey in China. I know you've been devoted your career in Chinese philosophy. What first sparked your interest in Chinese philosophy?
Well, that's a strange history because nothing in my family or in my personal history linked me with Chinese culture more broadly and Chinese philosophy especially. But I was in the public library and I was 13 years old, 14 years old, and I started to read some Taoist texts, Zhuangzi and Liezi. And I was totally amazed. It was something like a mental or an intellectual or even spiritual home for me.
Well, as a French scholar in China, do you see any similarities between Chinese and French cultures?
In terms of similarity, well, we've got many things in common and many good things. For example, food and cooking. Really fond of good cooking, both in France and in China. And that's really deep linked and deep friendship around that. There is an important difference, for example, in terms of pronunciation. The French language is very flat. And the Chinese language is amazingly musical. And so I think if we want to join together, we must learn our language.
Well, the recent visit of French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna aimed to encourage people-to-people exchanges. Well, Professor Lavis, how do you think we can enhance and promote cultural exchanges between China and France?
Many French people speak about China, but never been to China. It's very important to see China actually, currently, and to speak to Chinese people, real one, and not imagining. So that's very important. And tourism can be something like a first step. But nevertheless, I think about this opening visa for 15 days. It's very great. It's an amazing step.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, China and France are marking 60 years of diplomatic relations. And it's also the France-China Year of Culture and Tourism. What else can be done to promote the bilateral dialogue?
Culturally talking, I think it is very essential to learn languages and to promote the study of French in China, not only English. And exactly in France, to promote the study of Chinese language in France, especially in high school. Very important, very, very important. But there is another aspect in your question, which is the diplomatic dimension. 60 years ago, the French president Charles de Gaulle decided to recognize, to publicly acknowledge. It was very important to recognize that China represents something independent, not the American way. And this independency is absolutely crucial for France and for China. And I think it's around this diplomatic issue, which is the multipolarity and not anti-imperialistic diplomacy. And this recognition 60 years ago deals with that. We want to live in a multipolar world and not in an imperial world.